Hi there. So one of you asked me for a tour of my jewellery collection. Now, unfortunately, I know some of you know that my apartment was broken into in Paris over Christmas, and a lot of my jewellery was stolen, especially my family pieces, the really valuable pieces, alongside some really meaningful costume pieces. So I'm going to celebrate what we've got left today in today's video. I also want to talk about this idea of sort of layering up accessories to personalize your French style for a little extra bit of vavavoom. So my jewelry, I collect it all over the place. I love costume jewelry as much as, you all know that I treasure my family jewelry, and I'm devastated that some of my favorite pieces have now left me, especially a necklace that was given to me by my father before he died, and also some handmade earrings that were named the Olenska shells, which I'm actually having remade because I miss them so much. I'm terribly allergic to earrings, so I have to wear gold or platinum. And actually I'm quite allergic everywhere, so I tend to only wear the costume jewelry on top of clothes, or occasionally for a few minutes, or like an evening event if it's earrings, but really I can't tolerate it for much longer than that. Oh, where to start? Let's start with pearls, because pearls are something that a lot of women love. They're great because they radiate light onto the face, but they're also quite traditional. And if we're talking about looking elegant and relevant, pearls can have slightly fusty associations. So what I like to do with pearls is to mix more traditional pearls in with quite fun pearls, or at least layer them up in a bit of a Chanel manner, so that it looks more of a statement, something more bold and a bit more relevant. I also love to wear more costumey, more fun, pearls and diamonds and like big dazzly things. These are not real diamonds, I love to wear these sorts of twinkly things with more contrasted with more casual materials like denim, for example. Or here I've got a leather skirt on with this classic French black polo neck. So let's give this a go. So for example, talking about juicy Chanel pearls, this is a gorgeous, juicy collection of Baroque pearls with faux diamonds in this lovely champagne colour. Their costume jewellery, Chanel is famous for their costume jewellery, of course, although they do also do fine jewellery. So, I often talk about the fact that black is amazing because it goes with everything, but it can also be quite draining against the skin, which is especially relevant as we get older. And our skin can just naturally become a bit sallow or a bit grey. So pearls just shed some light onto the skin and sort of brighten up the complexion. I'm just going to pop that one on. It's also quite good because you can just link it tighter or looser depending on what you feel like, so that's nice. I also think it's important to consider, your boobs when you're talking about necklaces, because you don't want the jewelry going into your cleavage. That's not so terribly becoming. Also, if you do it too tight, you can get a bit of a double chin effect. So just ponder where you're going to let the jewelry hang. I don't have any tips, by the way, on chains not tangling up. I think just they're going to tangle if you wear chains that are close together, and you just have to embrace that. But first we're doing pearls. Then I've got my little smiley happy pearls. So this is my Element of Fun pearls from a brand called Walid Berlin, I think. So I'm just going to do this one. And I would say, this is an inexpensive bit of fun so that my pearls don't take themselves too seriously. What else have we got here? Oh gosh, I've got these wonderful jumbo pearls. This is a bit too much for me with this, but you can see when I put that against my face, you can see it's just offers a certain luminosity, irrespective of what your skin colour is. It's just gorgeous. For me now, maybe I'm going to put a little chain with this. Just to continue the layering look. I love that idea, when you've got the Chanel faux pearls that are a bit longer and they sort of trail down. They're really great, but they can also look a bit sort of middle-aged, we could say. So I prefer to layer up some personal things with some costume jewellery. So this is just a family chain that I got for a gift from the females of my family. And here we've got a little vintage clasp that actually came from the south of Italy, and it's got coral in. So coral in the south of Italy, where it comes from, is a symbol of good luck. I used to have a little sort of leg of coral, a little coral horn on a necklace, and I wore it for years with my, oh, maybe I've got it under here, with my everyday, here we go. Ooh, I've still got a few things on under here. So I used to wear a little coral horn with my Cartier everyday family necklace until it broke off, because it's coral, it's fragile. And I remember meeting my partner's family for the first time, and I met one of his grandmothers, and she told me that the little coral horn, she's French, was incredibly erotic. I was terribly embarrassed. My grandmother would never say anything like that. But there we go. Voila. Okay, so there we go. So that's already some layering. I'm quite happy about this. Feel like it just personalizes what is otherwise quite a simple, polo neck look. So when you're doing French style, it's something a bit more classical. It is quite important to make it still feel like it's your own, right? And I love that jewelry can do that. Also, another idol of mine, a sort of jewelry idol, was a fellow Eastern European called Helena Rubinstein. You might know her from a makeup line. So Helena Rubinstein used to famously, travel with massive, big, juicy jewels, and some of them were fake, cubic zirconia and crystal and so forth, and non-precious, and some of them were just huge diamonds and emeralds and precious jewels. And I love this idea of just combining things that are personally relevant to you, that are costume jewelry, that are trend-driven, like the smileys, and that are just, from your family, and more heirloom pieces. I think it's terrific fun. So a necklace that I get asked about a lot is this one. It's actually a little snake made into a heart and against a big, bold brass chain, which is gold plated. And again, you can just change the length to whatever length you want. So sometimes I like to wear it as a really long piece, especially if I'm wearing like a maxi dress, where I want the overall impression to be quite sort of long and lean. Then I might wear it a bit longer. Otherwise, it can be fun to, double it up, to loop it up like this, especially if I'm going to wear a jacket over the top, so that you can just see this here left out at the top. So there we go. I like it when you can just see the necklace, with a neckline like a jacket, some lapels or a trench coat or something like this. This is an old Celine one. I love the colour. That's why I bought it. And I had it altered because it was much too oversized for me. And much as oversized can be quite fashionable, I'm quite petite, and it actually can make me look, just made me look a bit wide and a bit sort of, it was a bit large. It made me look a bit oversized, a bit more oversized than I am. So I had the sleeves taken up, and I took some of the neck accoutrements off it to make it a more minimalist style. So there we go. I love these warm colours, especially against the face. This is a very warm, like 24 karat gold. So I especially love it. This is from the French brand called Gosson. I've done campaigns for Gosson before. It's a brand that's was famous in the 1970s, not only for its jewellery, but also for its objets d'art for the home. So chandeliers, lamps, often made with raw crystal, absolutely beautiful. They've been bought by Chanel now, and they continue to collaborate with interesting designers. I've forgotten their name, but this one's with a Japanese designer. And I absolutely love it. It makes me happy and fills me with love, and reminds me a little bit of Yves Saint Laurent as well, because Monsieur Saint Laurent, of course, famously used hearts in all of his jewelry collections, although this is not a Saint Laurent one. But I love those vintage juicy hearts from Saint Laurent that I saw at the Yves Saint Laurent Museum in Marrakesh. It's beautiful. If you get the opportunity to go, it's just a wonderful trip. It's just next to the Majorelle Gardens, and it's beautiful, so gorgeously curated, and even the bookshop is just a wonder. It's such a joy to walk around. And hearts, of course, this is quite a modern way of doing a heart that's not too sickly, but I do have a bit of a penchant for those kind of 1980s ideas of glamour. Again, perhaps it's because when I was growing up, I came from quite a practical community, but also very glamorous Polish ladies who would go to church wearing fur coats and so forth. So I do love a bit of a 1980s glamour look that hearts sort of remind me of in terms of jewellery. I also like to leave it hanging really long when I'm wearing it with a slip dress. Slip dresses can be a bit dressy, especially with a piece of jewellery. So I like it to be a little bit informal and sort of swinging when I'm wearing a slip dress. So in French style, it's nice to have a little bit of sensuality. So that's usually thought of as, either being chest or legs. It's rare that you would have your legs out like full on, and the décolletage. It's usually one or the other. And the same is true of jewellery. So if you've got a bold necklace, you wouldn't normally have like crazy loads of bracelets or, massive big earrings. It's usually either or. So you can see I've got my everyday earrings on here. These are from Renner Jewels. And as you might know, I'm a big lover of the ocean and of the sunshine. I can't bear the winter in Europe. Europe is the most incredible place on earth in the summer. You can't beat it. But in the winter, I do like to head off to the tropics. And I love all the shells that you find in the tropics, those vast shells that look like they're from another planet. So when I saw these, actually, I discovered her on Instagram. I wrote to her on Instagram. And by the way, feel free to message me on Instagram. I don't know if you're following me. I'm at Stylish Whispering. Come and follow me and send me a hello. And also, if you'd like to work together, let me know. And so I just messaged her and asked her, if she could send me some jewels. And I chose the little shell with the little diamond, so they're mismatching. So I think that gives this feeling of being polished and considered, but also not too considered. And that's part of the French style as well that I really like, is that it's kind of this idea of imperfect perfection. We don't want anything to look like it's trying too hard, but we also want to look, polished, especially at midlife and beyond. So this would be like a classic everyday look for me. I love to wear different aspects of jewellery, but it's about finding a balance so that it's not too much. And also I think sometimes we can incorporate ideas of jewellery trends in how to wear our jewellery. So for example, here I've just put a tiny little baby ring from Catbird. And, a few years ago it was a trend to wear lots and lots of rings on your hands, perhaps spearheaded by Karl Lagerfeld when he was still alive, and he liked to hide his aging fingers with lots and lots of metal and sort of clanking rings. Made this nice sound when he twiddled his fingers. Maybe that's a bit too much for me, although I have to confess, I once worked with Van Cleef & Arpels. I love their craftsmanship and the sort of histories behind their pieces. Actually, this kind of jewellery cabinet of curiosity we've got here reminds me of one of their pieces that I shot once for a magazine where I was the fashion director. And they lent me their collection of these beautiful minoiserie boxes from the Van Cleef & Arpels Archive Museum in Switzerland. And it's these beautiful boxes. Apparently a baron, an Eastern European baron, saw his wife had all of these, bits and pieces with her going to the ball. And he said, "What do you really need, darling?" And she said, "Oh, my lipstick, my watch." I don't know what else she had in there, her cigarettes, I think. And then he went to Van Cleef & Arpels, so the story goes, and he commissioned this beautiful box for her, like a metal box. And it just had little slots for everything, for her lipstick, custom, everything was custom designed, and they sort of pop out. And it's a bit like this, but smaller. So it was like a sort of a handbag box to take to a ball. Van Cleef still does them every season in celebration of this tradition, and I love them. Anyway, back to the subject at hand. I love Van Cleef & Arpels, and once I went to try on their collection, their Eau Jewellery collection, Eau Jewellery, and I had on all of these incredible rings that inspired a look I did for a shoot for Chanel, actually, where I just put all of the rings all over my hands. And I have to confess, it was quite fun. I wouldn't necessarily wear it in real life, but for a picture, it was certainly striking. So this is quite enough for me for every day. But yeah, sometimes it's nice just to think about new ways to wear rings. I had a client recently that told me that she had her grandfather's, I think it was, wedding ring, which is quite a heavy gold wedding ring. And it wasn't really her style, and it didn't really go with her diamond engagement ring, which was more feminine. And she said, "Oh, I don't know what to do with it." And I said, "Well, you can either get it melted down and made into a piece that does complement your personal style and your personal engagement ring and jewellery, or why not wear it on a chain around your neck?" And that just looked suddenly so modern. She could wear it every day with her work outfits. She could wear it the weekend. So always think about new ways and new things that you can do with old jewellery, like just wearing it here just gives it a little modern edge, doesn't it? These bracelets are old bracelets I say old, they're not ancient. I've had them for about a decade. They're from Celine, and I love this little chain that hangs off them. I think it's a little bit of a sexy feeling. I love the idea of matching cuffs, especially when they're in such a solid metal. I also love those ones from Buccellati. Maybe one day I'll upgrade these costume jewellery versions for the Buccellati versions, which have the diamonds in them. They're approximately the same width. Again, I just love the idea of the matching cuffs. I think it gives a bit of an edginess to a look. And because I've got, the cuff is quite a bold statement here, especially if I roll the sleeves of my polo neck up here, I'll just wear my everyday family jewellery. And I've just popped in this earring. So I've got one of my Rihanna Jewels shells in, my everyday jewellery. And I've just twisted it a little bit with this Delfina Dell'Attra's piece. So Delfina Dell'Attra's is one of the Fendi family, the daughter of the Fendi family, and she has a really intriguing personal style, very stylish woman. In fact, I think Kim Jones, the Fendi designer and the menswear designer for Dior menswear, was inspired from something that she wore for the recent Fendi collection. So she has her own jewellery line, and this is one of her pieces. And so you actually put it in from behind. It looks like a kind of modern piercing, and you actually fasten it with the pearl. So it's got a hole in the pearl, which to me just feels like such fun, right? You close it with a pearl. How fun! Of course, sometimes all you need is one statement piece, and I love this vintage necklace that I have. Actually, it didn't come together. This is actually a brooch. It's from when Albert Albaz designed Lanvin. He sadly passed away with COVID last year. And this was designed by Elie Top, who also now has his own collection of the most exquisite and magical orb jewellery, which references a little bit Art Deco. It feels quite extremely special, actually. I'd love to own one of his orb rings, which spins round to reveal various diamonds or rubies or stone of your choice. So when he was working alongside Albert Albaz for Lanvin, this is one of his pieces. As I say, this was a brooch, and this was a separate necklace, which actually had a sort of horn pendant. But I preferred these two together. And again, don't be afraid to switch things up and play with volume and proportion. I also personally love the idea of mixing up silver and gold. I find it quite modern and refreshing. So I was just saying, sometimes it's just about one thing. So here I've been wearing this pendant, but it could just as easily be, a pair of earrings. I love these ones with this beautiful soft pink coloured pearl. They're from Alighieri. Love what she does. Again, it's gold plated, so I can't wear them for very long. Just a few hours for an evening dinner, knowing that I'll have tender lobes afterwards. And she's very much inspired by Dante's poetry. And of course, I read literature at university for my bachelor's degree. So I love these kind of connections. Like, for me, fashion is a cultural pursuit, and a cultural reflection. So I love that somebody can draw inspiration from literature and put it into her very poetic jewellery. Et voila, I could talk about jewellery all day. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for watching. À la prochaine. Bye bye.